reflector tape, making sure it's not worn, torn, or missing. Going back, I'm going to be checking my lights. On my outside, I have my turn signals, which are also used as my emergency four-ways. And on the inside, I have my brake lights and my running lights. I'm checking my lenses, making sure they're not cracked, broken, or missing. Properly secured, and I'll be checking for any burnt out bulbs. In the middle, I have my ID lights. These lights indicate that this is a commercial vehicle. I'm making sure the lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing. Tied and secure, and I'll be checking for any burnt out bulbs. Going on to my license plate, making sure it's up to date. Tied and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts, and easily visible. Here I have my DOT bar, making sure it's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded.
What is DOT, by the way?
DOT bar is like, this is to prevent cars from going under the truck.
Oh.
Yeah, under the chassis, I'm sorry.
Oh.
The trailer. Because, I'll tell you a story later.
Yeah.
But making sure it's nice and straight, has a full set of reflector tape, not worn, torn, or missing, easily visible. Going on to my mud flats, making sure they're not worn or torn, tied and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. Proper height is 6 inches from the ground. Can't be too short or too long. Too short would defeat its purpose. Too long could drag on the floor and get caught up on my tires and get torn off. And that's it.
Yeah.
You recorded it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So where you want to go on next?
Front.
The front?
Yeah. Trailer. Tractor.
You have the front video, no?
Front, I only have the driver's side engine compartment. I don't have that side.
You don't have passenger side.
No, I forgot.
I think you have the passenger side and you don't have the
Yeah,
driver's
I don't have it.
Yeah,
This side is much more complicated.
Okay.
And we open the engine compartment.
And this one you don't have to put your foot on here. Because the hood is very light. You can just pull back.
Oh.
Okay, going to the driver's side. Starting off on the driver's side, I have my alternator, making sure it's tied and secure with this full set of nuts and bolts. It's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded. I'll be checking my wires, making sure there's no bare wire showing that could cause a short. My alternator is a belt-driven component. So I'll be checking my serpentine belt, making sure it's not worn, torn, not too tight, not too loose. Too tight could ruin the bearings of my components. Too loose could slip off and not work properly. Going on to my oil dipstick and my
Is
oil
there any
intake.
way we say no more than certain inch of play?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
No more than a 1/4 inch of play in between the two pulleys.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job, John. Good job. So going on to my oil dipstick and my oil reservoir. This is where I'll check my oil level. To check the level, I will take it out, wipe it clean, reinsert it, and take out to check for the proper level. If I needed to add oil, I would add it through the reservoir. I'm making sure both caps are tied and secure, not cracked, broken, or missing, and I'll be checking for any leaks. Going on to my power steering reservoir, making sure it's tied and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. It's not cracked or broken, and I'll be checking for any leaks. Making sure my cap is on, tied and secure, not cracked, broken, or missing. And this is my dipstick. This is where I would check my oil level. Same process as I would do with the engine oil. If I follow the hoses coming out of my power steering reservoir, it takes me down to my power steering pump. First I'll check the hoses, making sure they're tied and secure at each end, free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges, and I'll be checking for any leaks. Now the power steering pump, it's hard to see without pointing at it, but it's right under the air compressor. Okay, so you just really have to point it down in that direction.
The green one?
So you see that green circular thing?
Yeah.
That's the air compressor. So right under it is the power steering pump.
Power steering.
Pump, yeah.
Pump.
Power steering pump.
Do we need to introduce the power steering system?
Yeah, well, I'm going based off of this with the reservoir, so I'm following through. Okay. My power steering pump is tied and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be checking for any leaks. My power steering pump is a gear-driven component. Now my air compressor, I'm making sure it's tied and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. It's not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be listening for any leaks. My air compressor is a gear-driven component as well. The air lines coming out of my air compressor are tied and secure at each end, free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges, and I'll be listening for any leaks. That air line leads me to my main air valve. My air valve is tied and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts.
Air valve.
Air valve.
Valve.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There you go. Air valve, tied and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts, not dent, cracked, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. I'm going to be checking all the hoses coming out of my out of my air valve, making sure it's tight and secure at each end, free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. Coming down, I have my steering shaft, making sure it's nice and straight. The U-joints at each end are tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts, and well lubricated, not dent, crack, broken, or legally welded. Also, I should have no more than 2 inches of play while turning on it. Coming down to my steering gearbox, making sure it's tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts, not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be checking for any leaks. If my steer box were to be leaking, I'll need to get it replaced before I continue my trip. Going on to my steering leakage. Here I have my pitman arm, my drag link, my swing arm, and my tie rod ends. I'm making sure all of these parts are tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts, not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded. The joints are well lubricated, and they're tight and secure with the proper set of castle nuts. And also the castle nuts have the cotter pin going through. Nice, tight and secure. Going on to my suspension. Here I have my spring mount, making sure it's tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. It's not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded. Here I have my leaf springs, making sure I have a full set of leaf springs. They're not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded. Coming down, I have my mounting pad. My mounting pad is in its proper position, tight and secure with this proper set of U-bolts. The U-bolts are not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with the proper set of nuts. Here I have my shock absorber, making sure it's nice and straight, not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with its full set of nuts and bolts, and I'll be checking for any leaks. Okay, coming to my... You want pause it real fast so I can turn the wheel? You can see the inside good. Okay, going on to my brake chamber, making sure it's tight and secure with this full set of nuts and bolts. It's not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. The clamp going around my brake chamber is tight and secure with the proper set of nuts and bolts, not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded. The air lines going to my brake chamber are tight and secure at each end, free of any cuts, cracks, or bulges, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. Here in the front, I have a single brake chamber. Okay, going in, I'm going to be checking my rotor and caliper, making sure they're tight and secure with the full set of nuts and bolts. I'll be checking for any white powder or any black powder. White powder will indicate that the brakes overheated and a fire extinguisher was used. Black powder indicates that there's metal to metal rubbing. Also, my brake pads should have no, or brake pads or brake linings, either or, should have no less than a 1/4 inch of life left. I'll also be checking for any fluid leaks. If there are any fluids leaking, it can mean my inner axle seal has busted and needs to be replaced. Going on to my steers, I'm checking the inside wall and the outside wall for any cuts, cracks, or bulges. I'll be checking the thread for any nails or screws that could cause a flap. Here in the front, recaps are not permitted. My thread life should be no less than 4/32 of an inch. Air pressure should be between 85 to 100 psi, unless specified differently by the manufacturer. Going on to my rim, making sure it's not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded. Tight and secure with a full set of lug nuts. I'll be checking for any rust or any metal shavings around my lug nuts, which would indicate that they are loose and need to be tied in or replaced. Going on to my hub, making sure it's tight and secure with this full set of nuts and bolts. It's not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be checking for any leaks. Also making sure my hubcap is tight and secure, not missing. This is where I'll check my oil level. To check the level, I'll take my cap off, dip my finger in, check for the proper level. If I needed to add any, I'd add it through the same hole. Going on to my air valve, making sure it's free of any contact with the rim. It's not dent, crack, broken, or illegally welded, and I'll be listening for any air leaks. This is where I would check my air pressure with my personal air gauge. What else?